Welcome back to the Security Breakdown podcast, sponsored by Skills for Security. I'm Scott from Smokescreen, and I'm happy to be joined by somebody that I work with regularly and that I have a lot of respect for. That's right. Heidi from Lodge. So welcome Heidi. How are you doing?
Great, thanks for having me. Thank you for inviting me to Smokescreen HQ.
Yeah, it's brilliant. We're in Smokescreen HQ. Great to see Heidi. Today we're going to be talking about the power of partnership. So Heidi and I have worked together on lots of different projects, met on loads of different events, and you're kind of queen of partnership in my eyes.
I'll take that.
We'll get into why. You'll see why. Right, so we're going to kick off straight away. So you are customer success manager?
Yes.
Yeah, customer success manager at Lodge Security. What does that involve day to day, and how did you come to be in that role?
Okay, so I won't bore you too much with my retail journey. So obviously started off with retail. I worked for a national retailer for 16 years. That entailed managing stores, training staff, managing stock loss. For those that work in retail, I think you'll understand that you pretty much just turn your hand to all tasks. I moved into loss prevention. So my loss prevention role with this national retailer, it was investigating stock loss. So where was the losses? Was it supply chain? Was it processing issues, internal, external theft, etc.? So very much a data-driven role. I ended my career at this retailer as the crime and intelligence manager.
Cool.
That's what took me to Lodge. So Lodge were looking for a partnership and intelligence manager. I'm not going to lie, I had no idea what that would entail. So the intelligence bit, yes, I understood what the concept was. The partnership piece, I was like, So bearing in mind, when I worked for a retailer, I was very much data, sat in a corner, only spoken to my peers.
Yeah.
So again, didn't understand this partnership role. But I took a leap of faith and ended up at Lodge. So my role very much at Lodge was to look after the incident reporting platform. So it was making sure that the platform was fit for purpose. So fit for purpose for us as a business, fit for purpose for our clients. So it's understanding what would be quality reporting, quantity of reporting, and really liaising with our stakeholders within the business. That kind of then streamed to me having to go to events. So this was very much the scary bit of my job role, is stepping out of the comfort zone, building relationships with police, retailers, anybody really that would speak to me. And then as my job evolved, it became the CSM role. So today, as it stands, I'm a customer success manager, continue to build the relationships with our clients, understanding our clients' goals, their problem statements. I kind of act as the main point of contact for them. So I will deal internally with our ops team, our sales team, all of that information internally. I then relay that back to our clients, and hopefully I streamline that process.
Cool.
So we have a happy client, a happy Lodge team, a happy family.
Nice.
Essentially.
Something that you said that I've heard before, actually, when you mentioned when you work in retail, you kind of like alluded to you have to wear many hats.
Yes.
And I guess that probably helps. Like, obviously you've got the kind of analytical skill. I've got two questions about this that you've just brought up in my mind. One is, was there much of a difference? So you mentioned that you had that analytical background at that first retailer and then you came into Lodge. Was it like, this bit, how different was it? Like, how different was that?
So if we look at the crime and intelligence part, it wasn't any different. So it's collating the data, making sense of the data, and making sure that we're feeding that back to the key stakeholders. So that element from the retailer and Lodge, it was completely the same. The difference from Lodge is that partnership working, and I never realised how important it was until I came over to be a supplier. When I worked in stores, I never knew what a bid or a BCRP was. I think we just kind of contained our partnership within our four walls. We didn't go out, we didn't seek partnerships, we didn't really link in. So that was a massive turning curve for me to obviously really build these relationships. So yeah, that's been a big part of the journey and the progress that I've had to build.
That leads into my next question perfectly. I think that wearing many hats probably helps with, let's say you had only worked in crime and analytics and then you went into Lodge and you're trying to do partnerships, you'd probably be only be thinking, right, they need to know this data, they need to do this data, which, it's useful. But I think the fact that you're maybe looking at things more holistically because you've got more experience, that partnership needs to be more inclusive, doesn't it, of every issue they might be having, not just thinking about that, thinking about all the other things. And you mentioned bids and BCRPs. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but understanding what they are and how different they are is really important. I've realised in my job role over the last few years. So yeah, was that the fact that you knew all those other things that you could pull in, was that useful then?
Yeah, definitely, because I think when you've worked for a company for so many years, you have that imposter syndrome, and that's very much how I felt. So I think because I was very competent, I say that quite loosely, because I was quite competent in that data analysis, I could really transfer those skills over to Lodge. So I wasn't overly concerned that I could do the job. Like I said, the only bit that concerned me was that partnership working. But yeah, when you work in retail, there is so many hats that you have to wear. And I think you have so many transferable skills that you can probably just turn your hat at most tasks.
Yeah, cool. And you like it? You like what you're doing now? You enjoy it?
Yeah, no, absolutely love what I do. Generally love the work that Lodge trying to promote, what I try to do as well. So yeah, cool. Generally.
So why do you think that partnership has become so critical in the fight against retail crime? Is there something that's changed to make it so important, or has it always been like that? Why is partnership so important?
I think it's important, and I think it's always been important. But again, if I go back to my previous statement, people didn't want to work outside of their businesses. It became a bit of a taboo. Like you didn't want everybody to know that you were suffering with retail crime. I think as I've moved into this sector now, I can really see a shift, really see the partnership working within the communities. I think crime has become more organised. So that's where people in the communities and in the different sectors have to really become organised as well. I was having a quick look at the British Retail Consortium, so looking at their webpage. Apparently we have over 2,000 incidents a day. So that's obviously what's being reported and that we know about. We all know that all crime isn't reported. Retailers are spending millions of pounds on loss prevention. So I think a quote from the police is they can't arrest themselves out of this. So you've got to work with everybody that wants to support in reducing the retail crime. Let's data share, let's collaborate, let's build those partnerships with key people.
That's good. And that you alluded to something there when you mentioned, this is something that Lisa Maslin said on the podcast recently. She was at an event that wasn't in the retail sector. They weren't as developed at collaboration, and that's within the retailers. And she noticed, actually, she was thankful for how good retail is at sharing information on their problems. And this is maybe something that's good in our industry that we don't necessarily think about. Like as you said, retailers probably a while ago weren't so forthcoming. They don't want to admit that there is a problem, and we all know that there is a problem. So actually probably in retail we're in probably quite a good place from what her feedback is.
I think we're in a good place, yes, but I think it's taken a lot of key people and a lot of commitment from people to kind of move along in that partnership working. I know, again, I go back to when I first started here and I started to attend events. You would always go to seminars and you would see the police talking about collaboration, but it was always collaboration with the retailers. So, I'm a big advocate of the private security, hence I work in private security. And it's like the police need to look at that middle ground. So it's not just police and retailers working together. You've got outreach centres, you've got BIDs, BCRPs, private security. Everybody needs to be working together because it's not one person's problem, it's a community problem. So we need to make sure that all key stakeholders are working together to kind of solutionise.
Well, there are, like you said, there are a lot of cogs in the machine.
Yes.
And is a way of looking at it. And I think, moving on, it's perfect for the next question. So, because you and I both work with BIDs and BCRPs quite a lot, and law enforcement and retailers and then other security vendors, what does it take to build collaboration across all those platforms? What's a good one look like?
Everybody needs to be accountable for themselves. Everybody that wants to tackle retail crime goes into these meetings with a very open mind. I don't begin to understand everybody's pressures or priorities or constraints, so I go there with my clients' expectations or our business expectations, and it's being really receptive to listening to what's going on within the communities again. And I think as long as you're respectful to each other, you're listening to each other, that's what I feel is productive. Nobody has a one-size-fits-all solution. So again, it's listening to everybody's issues, problems, and how can we streamline that? How can we work together by listening to everybody?
Also, listening would be the main point. That's good.
And I'm really bad at listening, but
Well, you make it work, so.
And being listened to as well, because again, I'll go back to when I first started going to events. I wouldn't, and I don't really now. I don't really speak. I'm not that confident. I still think I'm relatively new into this sector. But just be mindful that the people that aren't really contributing, they could be potentially listening, they could be taking action points away. So just be inclusive to everybody, because again, you don't know their strengths or their weaknesses. So include everybody as much as you possibly can.
I think that's a really good piece of advice, and it's one of the most challenging things. If you're working in lots of different organisations, but you tend to find somebody's more vocal in a group, and obviously those people, their opinion comes across so easily, but then there might be somebody with a great idea in the background and trying to nurture that and get that out and making sure you're getting the whole consensus view, which is cool. So that's good. Listening is good, and trying to get people to actually talk, I suppose, trying to motivate them to give their point of view.
I think as you start going to events, you start seeing the same people anyway. So, those people that necessarily aren't very confident at first, they will come out of their shell. I mean, look at me. I think there's lots of people like that. Even from, like you said, you're new in the security industry. I've only been in it a few years, and it is hard to find your feet and to get the confidence to know that you know what you're talking about, and to be able to approach people, and like you said, to feel there's a little bit of that imposter syndrome. You're like, do I know what I'm talking about? But I think it's the way that the individual approaches that you're willing to learn something. There's so many strong characters, aren't there, in this industry as well? So I think it's just finding your niche and being comfortable to kind of express your views as well.
Yeah. Can you give us an example of a partnership that really worked? Something that you're proud of that's made a tangible impact, or something that worked?
For me, the biggest partnership working are BIDs and BCRPs.
Right.
I think they are the oracle of their communities, and you've got some really good partnership working. So if you look at the NABCP and the work that they do, it's not just business crime, it's outreach centres, it's the police, it's everything that makes that community. And obviously they strive to get that accreditation now for the BCRPs as well. So that's a really good initiative. For me and for Lodge, we always try to attend BCRP meetings. We're trying to make a name for ourselves in this community. Sabre Days, I think, are really pinnacle as well. So obviously, Safer Action Week, you've got your outreach centres, you've got police. So anything that's bringing the communities together, I think that's a really positive sign of a good working partnership. And if you've got a BID or a BCRP that's working with all these stakeholders, again, it's really inclusive. So I think it's really important to get these key people at these events.
Do you find that, let's say, because obviously BIDs and BCRPs are all completely different. I can't believe how different regions are. Some have one or the other or multiple, and then it depends, as with any job, who's the person that's there, who's the actual driver. Is there any way you're like, this BID just do it so well? And then I wish that, is there any way of you passing that over? Or is that down to things like BCRP accreditation and to get that benchmark? Is there anything you've ever thought, I wish this BID was doing it more like this?
So we work with BIDs. So obviously the BIDs that we work with, they're obviously doing an amazing job. But I suppose with the BIDs that that we don't actually work with, I mean, I'll always talk about Maidstone BID. And again, as I started kind of getting into this BID and BCRP world, we went down to Maidstone to support with one of their events. And it was really clear that the relationship that they had with all their key stakeholders. We did a podcast with Brighton BID. So again, this is a BID that we don't work with. We went down there and funded a bit of a podcast. We had a drone. We spent the day in Brighton.
Cool. We
did a walk around of the town, and it was really engaging to see who they're liaising with. So I think sometimes you think of a BCRP and all they're linking in with is a retailer.
Right.
But when we've gone to kind of Maidstone and Brighton, it's the relationship that they've got outside of those circles. So like with the neighbourhood policing teams, with youth centres, etc. So again, a good partnership is kind of getting everybody in the room with a voice and sharing best practices.
Okay, Cool. Okay.
Every other bid out there is amazing though, and BCRP is awesome.
I knew I'd get her to name a couple that she loved. So Brighton, she just wants another day out in Brighton, I think. I mean, that sounds like a nice day. Flying the drone in Brighton sounds great. Love it there.
It was epic.
Yeah, that's good. Well, that's really good. And then on the flip side of that then, what tends to go wrong when partnerships don't work? Like, what are the common pitfalls that you've seen in any of those projects?
I don't think, I don't think I've actually been privy to partnerships not really working. I think it's just finding your remit and finding your fit, because everybody works differently. So I think for us, if we went to a BCRP or a partnership working that wasn't really doing what we needed it to do, so that it might not tick the boxes for our client or for us as a business, we probably just wouldn't attend those meetings again.
Right.
Like you alluded to earlier, every bid and BCRP and partnership working is so different. I think it's just finding your niche and how you can support and if you can add value. I think if you can't personally add value to that meeting, then obviously don't attend it.
Yeah.
But I think the bids are voted in, BCRPs are obviously membership led. I think if they were doing a really bad job, they probably wouldn't exist anymore. Yeah, again, this is my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's true. Especially BCRPs that are slightly more privately funded. Well, bids are as well, but in a different way.
I think it just goes back to that, being very mindful that when you're going to these events, what do you want to get out of it? So I like to make sure that any events that we go to, why am I there? And for us at the moment, it's if I've got an officer there, if we've got frontline workers in this community, I want to make sure that, heaven forbid there is ever an issue, who can I turn to? So for me, again, that partnership working is understanding who can support us, who can support our clients. And that's my remit of why I go and try and find these partnerships.
Because you're there trying to get the best for them, trying to perform obviously the best that you can, but also trying to represent them. You, because you're a global company, you have that experience that you could be like, this would be a great idea if this BCRP were doing that. Do you make suggestions to them? Yeah,
definitely. And then that's why it's so important to go to multiple industry events, because you can go, well, actually this might work here or this doesn't work here. So again, it's about sharing those best practices, because what supports one partnership might not support the next one. So again, it's really important to be at these events as well.
Okay, cool. And then once again, it leads on beautifully. We talk about collaboration, and I think it is a bit of a buzzword, and that's what I worry about in the industry. Everyone talks about partnership, everyone talks about collaboration, everyone talks about sharing, and it's like sometimes it's hard to know what that, as a concrete thing, what actually is that. So how do you make sure partnerships actually deliver? Have you got any tips for that?
No.
Cool. Thank
Does
you.
that go into the next question?
Yeah.
Nothing's set in stone. So, that there's not a guideline on what does work and what doesn't work. I think, again, it's just being accountable for yourself. If you say that you're going to take an action or you're going to deliver on something, then just do it. I do think there needs to be more feedback as well, so that positive feedback as well, because there's so many amazing success stories that are going on, but people don't necessarily get to know about it. So how do we know what's working in one bid or what's working in one BCRP? We need to be more vocal and just talking about best practices, but not just to the people at the events, it's to, the wider communities. And I think everybody needs to get involved. There are multiple security vendors that attend these events, but there's so many security vendors. We all need to kind of do our part to support the communities.
Yeah, I like that. Accountability is really good, because if you're in a collaborative process, listening that you mentioned earlier is really important. You're going to listen to other people's ideas, but then actually the thing that you're most responsible for is doing something.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about Fight Back in a minute. One thing I always say in that project, so that's a collaboration, which we'll talk about in a minute, is everybody's responsible. And I think that's really, really important. In the small partnerships that I've seen in the limited time in this industry, it's as long as you're giving it the best chance possible, as long as you're at least doing your bit and not letting anybody else carry it. If you're listening and you're like, I want to do mine, I want to put my bit in. So I think accountability is a really good idea. So make sure you're accountable, folks. And that leads on to actually, so Fight Back Against Retail Crime, the initiative or project. And how did you get involved?
Generally, Fight Back is amazing, but it's amazing because you're kind of getting everybody in that community to working together. So for us as Lodge, you know, we came on just as you were starting to launch Fight Back as well. And for me, it was a really, really good initiative because, again, you're picking out a problem area and you're trying to get those key stakeholders together. So you're getting everybody in the room. So you're getting your retailers, your security, your solution partners, and you're really talking about their problem statements. There are other initiatives out there. They're all doing the same thing, which is great. I think, again, is something that we need to shout about. But yeah, Fight Back is something that we are massively committed to and supporting because, again, it just builds that collaboration and that partnership working. So well done, Scott, Jack, Stuart Codlin.
Yeah. I think to note that as well, like to give you guys credit at Lodge, that we've put on quite a lot of events now. I think we've had about 8 or 9 events, something like that, and there's a lot more coming soon. But
there's loads coming. What do you mean? Don't be
loads.
Bashful.
There's loads. But I think you, Lodge, and you in particular, but CJ as well, have been the most involved security vendor we've had. And I want to say thank you for that. Helped us more getting into BCRPs and bids to be able to put that event on. And just a brief description, those that don't know what Fight Back is, it's a pop-up retail crime event that we do in different locations. And as Heidi said, there's loads of cool stuff going on in the security industry and in the retail industry, and lots of great events, lots of great national events, but they're not necessarily catering to local needs. So one thing we do as partners is we've worked with local bids and local BCRPs and local neighbourhood policing teams and national to put these events on which are structured to what the individual problems are. So these kind of like little pop-up events. So the way I see it is, and I kind of thought about this recently, there's a lot of talk about sharing analytics and sharing data on a national level, which is great. And that's all good. We need that. And then there are national best practices, which are really good. But one thing is, I don't necessarily think that local people get in the room together enough physically. Yep. And that's my favourite thing about Fight Back, is that it is not an online meeting, it's not a national meeting, it's literally people that are in the same community. I mean, the security vendors are most of the time national, but you've got local policing, local retailers, and then hopefully some security solutions. And we can tailor it exactly how you've mentioned, and hopefully listen to each other and learn something.
That's your buzzword for today.
Listening
and accountability.
I like that word. Listening and accountability are 2 great words. I want to say thank you for being involved in it and believing in it and pushing it so much, because you've been involved in it.
I was just going to say, we believe in this initiative, and that's why, you know, we stand behind, you know, trying to attend these meetings as well. And it's great for Lodge as well, because it enables us to build that relationship as well. You know, I don't know every neighbourhood policing team, I don't know every BCRP manager, and again, I will go back to, especially where we've got teams working within that community, I want to know these people as well. And I think it's really good for the retailers as well, I think, because they want to see what they're getting. If they're paying a BCRP membership or a bid membership, it's really good to kind of do that joint up approach. This is what you're getting from this person, this is what you're getting for that person. So it's really good. So we need more retailers to get involved. You know, this is tailored for those retailers that have got retail crime issues, and it's very much about working together. So we need more retailers and more Fight Back events, I think.
Yeah, let's keep going.
That's it in a nutshell, really. More retailers and more Fight Back initiatives. Yeah,
we'll keep going. As you mentioned, though, other security events are available. There's loads of good stuff, loads of good... I feel like in the last couple of years, in general, the security industry with like Sabre Days and the BCRP Awareness Week, there's loads of good stuff. And the NABCP conference, the NABCP is really cool, and that gives the accreditation, like bringing that level up of sharing and making the BCRPs as awesome as they can be, which is cool.
There is so many. Again, I think it just goes to publicising it, because and it's understanding what is out there, what's going to bring benefit, what's going to bring solutions as well. So yeah, it's just being aware of them all, because there is quite a lot of events to attend.
Yeah, it's hard. Right, next. Right, beyond partnership. So what other levers could we be pulling to combat business crime? Like tech, policy, public awareness. What this is out of my remit, out of my comfort zone, but I wanted to ask it. I wanted to throw something left field because you might have some good ideas.
Debatable. I think when you talk about partnerships, you always think of that people element. People make partnerships. That's to quote Sophie Jordan as well. But for us as a security supplier, it's technology. You know, what's out there on the market. You know, retailers can't afford to just stick a security officer in every time there's an incident. So how can we support the officers that we use, that we have got? How do we utilise that? So, you know, body-worn cameras, face tech, smoke screen. There are so many solutions out there, but I think we need to be mindful that do policies need to change? I mean, we all know that business crime, retail crime is on the increase. How are we talking about that? How are we sharing that information? How are we then using that blended security of tech versus people? So it's understanding, again, those problem statements and making sure that we are not just throwing resource or money, we are kind of fitting that tech piece to a guard, because it all kind of encompasses that solution. That's great. I like tech. Do you are there any, you mentioned a few tech solutions there, which is cool. And I'm not techie, so apologies. There are so many other solutions
out
there.
How it works. How does it work? Can you tell me how face tech works?
I have a team that knows how it works.
Yeah, no, I'll be the same. Right, please don't ask that question. Is there anything that you are particularly excited about? Obviously, so for Lodge, one of your bigger services is man guarding. Is there something that complements that really well that you are a fan of?
I'm going to say data,
because
because that's my world, isn't it? You know, we really encourage our officers to report, so it's making sure that we've got that platform that's fit for purpose. It's easier to use for the officers. Instant reports can be put together in seconds as well, because obviously that's really important, that we don't want an officer standing there on site filling out a really tedious form, and then it's what we do with that data afterwards. So for me, I don't want to collect data just for the hell of it. It's what's next. You know, so we're collecting the data. Is it going to be shared with a BCRP? Can we start working with other retailers? Can we start looking for trends and for prolific offenders? So I think is whatever solution you're putting in place to support your officers, it's making sure you're doing something meaningful with it afterwards as well.
That's good.
So like your body cameras, it's making sure that, you know, they're turned on. I mean, that's always a good start, isn't it? So if you've got instances as well, it's like, you know, collating that data from tech into the crime data, and then what you're doing with it next is really, really important.
That's really interesting.
What, they're turning on the body camera?
Yeah,
it does work if you turn it on.
No, honestly, there's so much in this one. So I was at a small conference a couple of months ago, and there was a body camera manufacturer there, and I undertook some of their training. They had like a new training platform that they've got, which is like AI driven. And basically what you had to do is you could talk to the training, and it was basically checking that you understood that company's policy. Obviously, I'm not a security guard, I'm not trained, and I was having a bit of fun with it. But so I eventually got hit by the customer, which was quite funny, because I was winding it up a little bit. But I remember there was a point when, because I was just taking it as a joke at first, but right at the start of it, there was a part where you had to, I didn't even know when you meant to turn the camera on. Like, I don't know what you meant to do. I mean, you could say, oh yeah, just turn it on all the time, but obviously you can't have tens of hours of footage, like every security guard, you're going to be a nightmare. So knowing even the time to put the camera on, how to use it, how to de-escalate, the training involved for guarding, and when to use the tech correctly, because if you put it on too late, it's too late, right? Yeah. And there was even talk about, at another event I was at recently, about maybe having cameras with an algorithm eventually that would activate that turn themselves on based on body language of the potential situation. They'd be like, that they'd know to turn themselves on, and that'd be great. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting, because even turning on a camera, I mean, I'm untrained, as I said, even knowing that point when to do it is quite difficult. And like you said, gathering all that data, it's fine getting it, but if you're not going to pass it to anyone, what's the point?
I think there's so many tech solutions out there, and again, I will go back to it. It's understanding those problem statements of your clients and making sure that the tech complements the officer complements the tech. Training's obviously really important as well, and public awareness as well. You know, obviously
Yeah.
they don't understand the policies and procedures of said retailer, so sometimes they'll see shoplifting happening, people are standing back, and it's the way it's perceived as well. So I think that's a really pinnacle as well, is that public awareness piece as well, and being able to de-escalate and calm, you know.
Yeah, intervention is a big public.
That's the word, intervention.
Yeah, that's public are hot on that at the moment,
Yeah.
obviously. Great, okay. Back to relationships and the way that you've kind of developed your career with partnerships and networks over the last few years. What advice have you got for anyone that wants to build stronger networks? Any individual or any company? What's golden rule for partnerships that you could give? How can someone
just chuck yourself in the thick of it?
Nice.
And I think that's what I've had to do. Again, coming away from Cobweb Corner, as I alluded it in my previous days, no one's going to really build these relationships. So, you know, find somebody that can support you on that journey as well, tell you when events are happening. And I think you really need to just put yourself out there as well. That's the only way you're going to learn as well, I think, being chucked in the thick of it.
So
chuck yourself in the deep end.
be brave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's good advice. Are you proud of how far you've come?
Yeah, and I don't mean that arrogantly. I think if you had met me probably 4 years ago, I wouldn't be sat here talking to you. I would get really embarrassed. I would probably say thingamabob more times than you can shake a stick at. I still get those jitters. You know, I'm not going to lie. I've thought about calling in sick coming here today because I didn't want to do it. But I think you've just got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And nobody's laughed at me yet or booed me off stage, but you know.
Not laughed at you in a bad way.
Well, you laugh with me and not out at me, I suppose.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. One more final question. So we were talking an important question before, as ever. The important conversations happen backstage before you get on the podcast. So I just wondered, what is your favourite chocolate bar, and why?
No, I want to go back to your last question though.
Oh, she's not finished yet.
No, I hadn't finished because I just kind of thought it was like, what's your one golden rule? And I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it is just don't be a dick. Okay. Support each other, understand different people's capabilities, listen, learn, and just be nice to people. We're all trying to fight the same issues. We're all trying to support each other. We all want the same end goal. So let's support each other. Let's listen to each other. Let's work with each other. I will get sacked now for saying that number one rule.
Number one rule.
Don't be a dick.
No, that's interesting though. Like, on a serious note about, well, no, you are being serious, but I think you have to have the right person in place in your company that's going to be doing the networking. I don't know if anybody's seen this before. I'm not saying it's not here, but I've been in companies in different industries. And if you've got somebody that is dealing with customers and they're not good with customers, don't put them in that role. And if somebody is very arrogant and they're the one that is responsible for collaboration, how is that going to go for your company? How is that actually going to work?
Yeah. You've got to know your audience, haven't you, as well? And again, this is why I just go back to just be kind, just be respectful. We've all got different ways of working, again, policies, processes, procedures. So yeah, just be nice to each other.
But I think I want to say it's testament to your personality and the way that you're not a dick. That
I take that as a compliment, so thank you very much.
The way that you've managed to build so many relationships and get involved in partnerships, because your personality, you're warm and people want to spend time with you and they're happy to see you, and that's important because you don't want to do business with people where it's not enjoyable.
No, I mean, I work for a great business as well that supports the journey that I'm on as well, so I know that if I had an issue, that I've got the team behind me that would support me as well. And I think that gives me the confidence to kind of get out there as well. I want to do a good job for Lodge. Yeah. I want to promote what Lodge does in the communities as well. And I think, going back, we are a hidden little secret. So yeah, anything I can do that can promote Lodge, promote what we're doing is just a bonus, I think.
Great. So there's belief in that as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
You've got to like where you work, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, I hear that from a lot of people in general in my life. Do you like where you work? No, I hate it. It's like, why are you there then? Like we love working here. Yeah. Like, it's great. And it's because the culture
Yeah.
in the company is important. I'm not saying you're going to like every single person you work with, but you have to believe in the general ethos, I think. So that's
Yeah.
great. And chocolate bar?
Twix.
Twix, okay.
Preference would be a sausage roll. I won't name the brand, but you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Certain man's name. Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for sharing with us today. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any comments, please pop them below for Heidi, because we'll keep up. We can ask her any questions for you, or you can see her at events. But thank you very much, Heidi, for joining us. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Security Breakdown. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.